do this. Dr. Juan, thank you, sir, for joining me for our first ever live podcast.
Pleasure to be here.
You must feel like really special.
I really do. It's an honor. It's quite an honor to be here, being the first on your podcast. So,
sir, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Just to kind of give everybody an understanding of what we're going to chat about here, we're going to focus a little bit on the chiropractic care and the things, right? We'll make sure people understand why it's so important. We'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll get into some more of the business side.
Okay.
I think that's where we lack a little bit out in the chiropractic industry. At least I feel like we need to educate folks and even clinics in general of what they can do to be successful with their clinics. So that's really my whole purpose behind these podcasts, is to feed out as much information as possible so that folks can benefit from it.
Love it.
Yeah. So again, thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming on. So without further ado, if you don't mind, we'll just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, let's talk a little bit about the chiropractic care piece of it. So I got my questions here. Yes, I have a cheat sheet. Get over it. So why do you believe chiropractic care is essential for long-term health?
So we can break that down into two things, right? So there's the structure, right? So that is just talking about the spine itself and the biomechanics behind that.
Sure.
And then there's the other side of that, which is our function, right? And so when we look at structure, just like physics, because we have gravity constantly putting pressure on us, if we don't have the ideal structure, then it's going to collapse, or it's going to wear and tear a lot quicker, just like a bridge if it's not built properly, right?
Makes sense.
Now we go back to the function. What lives within your spine? It's the most important organ in the entire body. That's your nervous system,
Sure.
right? And so if the structure is obstructing or compromising the nervous system, well, now you just cause interference, which will then cause further dysfunction and issues in different locations of your body that you may not think are actually related to your spine. But because there is no Wi-Fi system, right, in our nervous system, everything is connected. And, the minute you start interfering with some of those, let's call them wires, you're going to need to troubleshoot and you'll find different issues occurring in different places. So the reason it's important to bring that full circle is because we cannot flourish, we cannot thrive as human beings if there is constant interference in our nervous system. That's the easiest way to explain chiropractic, I think.
Makes 100% sense.
Yeah.
No pun intended. I won't tell you why. I told you, it's the dad jokes, man. I'm going to kill him with it. Okay, so what are some of the common misconceptions around chiropractic care?
So one that comes to mind right away, I get a lot of patients, first time going to a chiropractor, they're like, "Doc, my neck, like I'm a little nervous about that," right? Because they've heard stories or horror stories about like somebody getting adjusted and like they had a stroke or this or that. And that's actually been proven through research, actually many years ago already, that there isn't any correlation. There's no direct connection between a chiropractic adjustment and arterial, like a stroke, right?
Right.
Arterial dissection is what we call it. What they found was you are just as likely to get a stroke whether you go to the chiropractic office or whether you go to your primary care. The reason being is it's actually coincidental that you just got adjusted and you had a stroke, meaning you were going to have a stroke regardless, either way. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions. It's not going to cause any arterial damage to your cervical arteries. And in my practice, at least, we take x-rays. We want to make sure that we identify any contraindications that there might be in regards to adjusting, because there are cases where you shouldn't be receiving cervical manipulation.
Sure.
So it's really important, if you are going to a chiropractor, make sure the chiropractor is doing x-rays, or if they're not doing x-rays, at least doing a very in-depth, thorough assessment via orthopedic exams or neurological exams, just to make sure that everything is okay and they can proceed with that adjustment.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I would say that's one of the biggest misconception. And I would also like to add to that.
Yeah.
I've adjusted at this point in my career thousands of patients, and
Me being one of them, top notch, just saying.
not a single incident ever or anything close to that has ever happened. When I went to chiropractic school, when we were learning how to adjust, we all adjusted each other, practiced on each other,
Yeah.
right? The students.
Yeah.
Nobody had any issues with that.
Sure.
Nobody had issues throughout the whole history of school. So that just goes to show you those rare occasions were coincidental and not causative.
And not, yep, I agree. I'll say somebody I know used to think you can get paralyzed from chiropractic care. I won't say who.
Yeah. So it takes by the way, it takes an immense amount of force
Yeah.
to break through the spine
Sure.
and cause that type of severe spinal cord
Sure.
damage. Think
Sure.
about football players. If that were the case, football
Yeah.
players would
Yeah.
be becoming paralyzed with every hit they had,
Exactly.
with the force that they get.
That's actually what the chiropractor I saw at the time told me.
Right.
He actually brought up football. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So, all right. This is an easy question. I think because this is something you do on a daily basis. It's the core of what you do, really, in my opinion. And if it's not, educate me. But how do you explain the benefits of regular adjustments to someone new to chiropractic?
It's just like anything else. Anything that you want to be good at or you want to achieve a level of health at something, you need to practice that and you need to do that continuously, right? Like, for example, if I want to look a certain way, right, and I'm going to the gym and I achieve that, do I stop going to the gym? No, because then I'm going to lose those results. The only way to maintain the results is to continuously go, right? So the same thing with chiropractic. We do so many things in our lives on a daily basis that cause something called subluxation, which is basically when the bones of your spine shift and put interference into your nerves. And so we have to make sure that we're accounting for that and we're taking the correct measures to make sure that we're maintaining a spine that's clear of subluxations, that biomechanically is sound, and that's going to allow us to thrive at our best. So
Makes total sense. I love it. Just a couple more about just the chiropractic care before we get into the kind of crux of it. Is that the word, crux? I think it is.
Crux.
I don't know. I think you get what I'm saying. So in your experience, why do some patients hesitate to commit to regular chiropractic care? And how would you address those concerns?
Yeah, so that's a big question, multi-part question, but I'm going to try to keep it as concise as possible. So, I mean, because it's the biggest problem that I think we see as a chiropractor and a business owner is, getting people in, showing them the value of what we do and why it's so important, but getting them to truly believe that, right? And so we've been, brought up within these social constructs of the medical system, the healthcare system,
Sure.
Which I like to call sick care, right? Because you only go to the doctor when you're sick or when you have an ailment. You never go just because you want to feel amazing, right? So, to bring that back to what you're asking, the biggest way to get a patient to understand the importance of chiropractic is to always tie it back to what their health goals are. Like, what is it right now that means so much to them that they can't do? Like, is it holding their kids? Or is it something as simple as being able to golf, like the sport that they love that they can no longer do?
Sure.
Right? If you can really hone in on that and be able to show the patient, hey, if we do this, you're going to have your life back. You're going to be able to do those things that you're passionate about, the things that you love. That doesn't have to go away. Whereas if you go the traditional way, oftentimes the first thing they tell them is like, I'm so sorry. You've come to a point where like you can no longer do those things and you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, let's try to figure this out, let's see how we can work together so that you can have your life back. So what we need to do is let's set those goals, let's come up with a specific plan and measure that objectively as we go through, right? And I think as soon as patients start to make the connection that chiropractic and the effects that it has on our nervous system and our biomechanics and the importance of the spine, I think once they start to make that connection to not just pain, but function, I think they start to come around. And then, of course, once they get adjusted, and they get adjusted a few times, and they start to feel the difference, then usually people are starting to believe.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I mean, I'll share a personal experience.
Sure.
So back in 2009, I think the community now already knows about this because I talk about it so much. But back in 2009, I got into an accident. So I get into the accident. It's actually right by the house. I run to the house. I was running. I was fine, like no problem. It was the adrenaline, I'm assuming. So I didn't have my wallet, right? Grab my wallet, run back, take care of everything. The next day, I literally couldn't move. I could not move. And long story short, all the lawyer stuff, medical, whatever. Oh, you need to go see a chiropractor. Well, I did. I went to this chiropractor who pretty much told me that there's no helping me. I found out later that this chiropractor was not necessarily a chiropractor. So that wasn't even on his sign outside. It was like physical therapy and some other things, which it's not bad. Physical therapy is not bad. But he turned out to be someone that couldn't be trusted in a sense, if that makes sense.
Right.
So anyway, I went through that, and he told me what he told me, like, hey, listen, this is just how you're going to be. I was walking with a cane. Cane. This was, I'm not going to tell you how old I was at the time because then you'll figure out how old I am now. But I was literally walking around with a cane, and I was hunched. Wow. Anyway, I found a chiropractor. Someone suggested, hey, you need to see a chiropractor. They will help you. I was like, I am seeing a chiropractor. We looked at him, nope, you're not. Oh, okay. Anyway, I go see this chiropractor, and literally life-changing. Within a week and a half. Now, this is months later. Within a week and a half, Dr. Juan, I kid you not. The cane was gone. I was walking around fine. The pain was like 50% gone. And then it changed my life. Yeah, so life-altering.
Amazing.
For me. Life-altering for me.
Yeah. I think before we transition into more of the business side of things, I would like to say, like, going back, I guess, to the misconception of chiropractic, a lot of people think that chiropractic is only for pain, right? And also, there's a lot of people that tend to normalize pain, right?
Yeah.
But chiropractic can help it so much more than just my low back pain or my neck pain, right?
Sure.
That is, I like to tell patients, that is the alarm that your body is setting off because it's been dealing with this for a long time, and now it's like, I've had enough, you need to do something about this. But it's also connected to the reason why you can't sleep, why you have low energy, right? Those terrible migraines, right? All those things are connected. And, I think that's important for people to make that shift. It's not just about pain, it's about your function, it's about your quality of life.
Right.
All those things need to be factored in when you're thinking about whether or not you should see a chiropractor. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll take that even a step deeper, if that's okay. I mean, well, we're in control of the cameras, so it's fine. But, and I'll try to do this without crying because it involves my kids. So first we found out about my son who has scoliosis, and he wasn't in pain. He had zero pain. He was fine. He was playing football. He was playing basketball. He was running. He was jumping. I mean, you name it, this kid was doing it. No pain whatsoever. And he was at a pediatric appointment, and his doctor just said, hey, just keep an eye out. Just keep an eye out on his back. It looks, a little off. Well, shortly after that, my wife actually gets into a car accident. I believe this is all God. But she gets into a car accident, and then she goes to the chiropractor after the accident. My son was in the car with her as well, but they were fine. The kids were fine. Nobody was hurt. She hurt her neck a little bit. At the appointment, she asks the chiropractor, she says, hey, we were at the pediatrician's office, and he said to just look at his back. Can you look at his back? So he did. And he's like, yeah, it looks like he needs some work or whatever. Started adjusting him there. He was still fine. We shifted to another one, Dr. Jaron. You may know him, great guy. And so started adjusting him there, and then it turned into full-blown scoliosis. That's when we found out actually at Dr. Jaron's office, and he recommended a specialist. Long story short, again, no pain. Once we got to the specialist, he explained to us the whole thing about the scoliosis and how it works and what happens with growth spurts and all that. When we actually started doing the adjustments that fix and correct, that's when he started getting pain. But we also know that it's correcting his spine and that it's for, it's preventing surgery. A lot of people don't know that you can actually prevent back surgery with chiropractic care. Not even as severe as scoliosis.
Right.
But just my dad, unfortunately, has had 2 back surgeries. If we knew now what we knew then, boy, I mean, how many surgeries could he have, not had essentially or gone through? But then we found out my daughter has scoliosis, unfortunately. You care for both of my kids, which we appreciate, and you're doing a fantastic job, so we appreciate you for that. But knowing that we are preventing a life of pain for them. Now, it's a daily struggle with us because they also have to wear the scoliosis brace, and we're constantly the bad guys. I know I'm long-winded with this, but again, it's just my kids. And yeah, so anyway, the daily struggle is worth it. The constant follow-up and the weekly adjustments are worth it because we know that we're preventing back surgery. We're preventing their scoliosis from essentially flaring up during their growth spurts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we just happened to be right place, right time when we found out. The goal is to teach people about this ahead of time so that they know and they have the information.
That's right. So
that this doesn't happen to them. So yeah, long-winded. I did it without crying.
Yeah.
Quivers in my voice, but I did it without crying. Love my kiddos.
Yeah. I just want to say, love your kids as well, and you're doing a tremendous job with them.
Thank you, sir.
Amazing kids.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, no more sobby stuff. Let's get into some business talk here. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about the challenges in running a chiropractic practice or clinic, whatever you guys call it. We'll call it practice. I think that sounds more official. But so really the questions I'm going to ask you now, and again, looking at my cheat sheet here, we're going to talk about the challenges in running a practice while focusing on the patient care, because that's really hard. I don't think people kind of get that, but that's what we're going to talk about. So question 1, how do you manage the balance between focusing on patient care and running the business side of your practice?
Right. I mean, it's definitely a juggling act, like you said. But I think the most important thing with that particular question for me has been delegating. Like having a good team that this person's doing this person's doing that. And I call it putting aces in their places, right? You got to find their strong suits. And that's, a big part of that is leadership. You have to be the leader. You have to know who the team that you have and who's working for you. But if you're able to delegate correctly and you have a rock star team, that is the sweet sauce. That's the secret recipe, if you will, of what can make you be able to still adjust and trust that the front desk is taking care of the billing, that's taking care of your patients and greeting them the way that you want to greet them, and taking care of them and scheduling them, all those things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For me, is huge because I know that the people I have in the front, they're like my family, and I know that they truly care about our patients as such. And for me, I can solely focus on the person that's in front of me. So good. I guess the best answer to that is just having a great team and being able to lead that team correctly.
That's good. I like that. Actually, when you said that they're family, and so I teach some things about that, right, around brand management. When you're actually have a book that I'm going to share with our audience too, but when you're creating that brand, right, your colors, part of it is also your voice. Your voice needs to resonate
Right.
through your employees as well. The patients need to see that you guys are families. The patients feel like family. I, for one, feel like I'm family when I walk in. I joke around with your staff all the time. I'm not going to name them because I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I love them. I love them all. And I think it's very important. So I love that. Thanks for that. So what are the biggest challenges you face in handling both the clinical and the business side and actually handing that off, that responsibility off? What are the challenges you see around that?
So, I mean, I've had the honor of having 4 associate docs transition into the practice, getting them in, treating patients. I think the biggest thing with that is training, for one, but training so that you guys can be as congruent as possible, specifically when it comes to patient treatment. Because if, and there's different parties of thoughts on this. Some people think that it's good to have a little bit of diversity, and this guy does this and this guy does this, which is fine. My personal opinion is that you really should try to be as congruent as possible, because that's going to make it easier if you ever need to step out. Everybody can adjust all the patients.
Sure.
I'm sorry, one doc can adjust all the patients,
Sure.
and nothing misses a beat. So I think for me, what I've seen work the best for me, because I've kind of had both, is a doctor that can adjust almost identical to you, very similar to you, because then you can step away, and I've done that. I've been able to step away, go on a vacation, and then there's less issues. Nobody's really complaining that you're not there. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is making sure you and that doctor are on the same page. You're pre-shifting, you're post-shifting, you're talking about every patient together. That way the care is seamless from one provider to the other.
Makes sense. I love it. I love it. How do you find time to market your practice while staying focused on the patient care?
That's tough. That's why I have social media marketing. Because if I didn't have social media marketing, I wouldn't be able to spend any time with my family. Right? Because I'm in the practice and I'm doing my thing, and I'm there from 7:30 to almost 7 p.m. at night.
Sure.
If I had to then leave and go to a grocery store or a gym and set up a booth and start trying to get patients that way, I would never see my family, right?
Yeah.
So for me, social media marketing has been revolutionary in the chiropractic field, because back in the day, that's what the OGs had to do, right? Like, they literally, that's how they got their patients.
Yeah,
and then
for
of
sure.
course word of mouth.
Yeah.
But social media marketing has allowed me to step away from doing all those personal things and being able to, allocate my time to other things that are a priority to me. So for me, that's been huge.
I love it. Yeah. And I'm biased, of course.
Yeah.
But we'll leave that alone. So would you say, not to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying it's more realistic for you to outsource your marketing versus kind of keeping it in-house?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And I do a little bit of both too. Like, of course, my social media presence, those are all things that I have to work with my staff.
Yeah.
Making sure we're, keeping that going and we're growing that. But that goes back to delegating and making sure your staff is aware of all those things and the importance of that. Having somebody that is in charge of, like, doing the Instagram posts, doing the Facebook posts, all those things are really important as well, as a supplement to the social media marketing. You don't want your whole office or your whole practice to 100% rely on social media leads, because the minute something goes wrong with that, now you have no, lead source.
Sure.
So for us, we try to be as diverse as possible, but the majority of our new patients do come from social media marketing.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So let me ask you this. What systems or strategies have you put in place to kind of help you juggle the responsibilities of running the business, treating the patients? You said you also do some of the social, profile posting and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of systems, if any, do you have in place?
So every single morning before we start a shift, we always do a pre-shift. Everybody needs to be on the same page. Everybody needs to understand what they're doing so that we can be as efficient as possible. Because if everybody's running around like a chicken without its head, nothing's going to get done. It's going to cause frustration within the team. and despair. So one of the most important things that we do on a daily basis is pre-shifting and post-shifting. What went well? What were some issues? How can we fix that? How can we handle that situation better next time?
That's awesome.
Those are all some really important things.
That's
and
awesome.
For me, being able to say during the pre-shift, like, hey, we need a post today. We need at least this done today. And I know my team will get it done because it's written down.
Sure.
They have to initial it. So, just taking leadership of your team and making sure you're being efficient.
I love it. I love it. Have you ever experienced burnout?
Oh, yes. Very familiar. A little too familiar with burnout. Yes, I've been there many times. It is not a fun place to be in.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, you're going into a place of healing. That's supposed to be a place of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're burnt out and your cup is empty, it's very hard to fill up someone else's cup.
Makes sense.
So for me, when I have been in these situations, and the way to get out of that is, number one, acknowledging that you're in that state. Sometimes, you're so in it that you just kind of continue until you essentially just crash. But for me, it's being aware. Awareness is huge. And then bringing it back to the why. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I waking up every day to come into this office?
Mm-hmm.
It's about the patients, and it's about their trust in you.
That's good.
Right? And you want to make sure that you're providing a healing environment every single time. Like, the way I show up at 7:30 a.m. or at 8 a.m. is the same way that I need to show up at 5:55 when my last patient comes in. Like, there should not be a difference in the level of care that I provide. So for me, it's like self-development, it's, meditating, it's awareness.
Sure.
It's all those things, and understanding the why of why I'm doing what I do. So
That's awesome. Well said, man. I love it. Because you kind of answered a follow-up question I had in my head about how you overcome that, or how you prevent it. So that's good. That's a good answer. We're gonna shift gears a little bit. We're gonna talk about patient acquisition. You cool with that?
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna talk about like practice growth and clinic growth and whatnot. So how do you currently acquire new patients in your practice? And if you can just kind of touch on all the ways briefly, if you don't mind.
I mean, of course, like I mentioned before, social media, that's a huge one. But outside of that, it's really important for us to get patient referrals. Those are one of the highest quality of leads that you can get in your office. And it can be hard, it can be difficult to get them, but the best way to go about it is talk to your patients about, hey, you're getting adjusted, you have kids, like, maybe bring your kids, get them checked out, right? Like, if you understand the importance of chiropractic, you understand that, your family members should also be getting checked at and looked at. So definitely patient referrals. The other thing can be like if you do workshops in your office, which is something I've done in the past, or maybe every now and then you can do a booth at a gym, not something that you do every day or all the time, but every now and then just showing your face in the community, letting them know that you're here and then you're here to take care of this community is really important.
Yeah.
The other thing is like having like banners or things around the community. Like I had a banner in a gym, in a very popular gym in Rock Hill, and that was really cool. Like I got a few patients out of that. That's nice. And just diversifying, you know, and I think the biggest thing, if I can recommend anything, is social media marketing and referrals are the biggest two. Those are the cornerstone of building a successful practice.
Yeah.
For sure.
When you talk about referrals, I think about patient retention. And I think about the quality of care that they receive, because I think that's where the referrals come from. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think those two things, that is what dictates the vitality of a practice, is how well can you bring in new patients through the door, and can you retain those patients? Can you keep that back door closed?
Yeah.
Is huge, because you can bring in all the patients you want, and you can get them signed up for care. But if that back door is wide open, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Conversely, if you keep that back door closed and maybe you don't get as many new patients, you can still survive that or go through that. But I think the most important thing that I'm trying to say is quality of care is super important.
Sure.
Like it's it's imperative that we provide quality of care. Like these people are not just a number. They're people that are depending and have trust in you.
Yeah.
And you need to treat it as such. So
I love it. What marketing strategies have worked best, and then what literally flopped?
Okay, so
let's start with the flopping.
Let's start with the flopping. So the things that don't really work that well for us, I would say, are Groupon, not that good. The reason being is the lead quality tends to be not the greatest.
Got it.
And you're also getting, like, what you get from Groupon is very little. Like, it's 50% of what that patient is paying. So that one isn't my absolute favorite, I'll be honest. Second to that would be like doing like some sort of signage on the back of receipts, or doing like that kind of stuff. To me, I don't think is as good as having like social media marketing, allocating those funds to something that people are constantly looking at. So yeah, those would be probably the two flops. The best is word of mouth and social media marketing for me.
Love it. Okay. All right. We might have, no, I don't think we touched on this, but what would you consider, if you had to pick one thing, what would you consider to be the biggest challenge in acquiring a new patient?
So acquiring the lead or converting that patient to a
Let's cover both. Let's talk about acquiring the lead.
Okay. So the biggest team, and this is just in general or with social media marketing?
In general.
Okay.
In general.
The biggest thing with acquiring a lead is the person that's reaching out to them. That first contact to me is the most important thing.
Okay.
Right? Because that's what's going to spark that interest. So if you have somebody calling and they're just like, oh, hi, you want to schedule an appointment? Oh, you don't? Okay, bye. Then, you're not going to get many people to come through your doors. But if you have somebody that's energetic, that's passionate and convicted about chiropractic and can convey that to the patient calling, that's the difference between getting those leads in and not. Now, as far as getting patients to understand chiropractic and understand the value, that's all about education.
Yeah.
Education is the number one thing. That's why my practice, before I even touch anybody, we're educating them, we're teaching them about x-rays, we're showing them what's actually happening to their spine, and then we walk them through that adjustment.
Okay.
And I think that makes a world of a difference.
Okay. I love it. It's good stuff. Man, you're like wealth of knowledge, dude. I love it. All right. What advice would you give to chiropractors struggling to bring in new patients?
If you're a chiropractor and you're struggling to get new patients, well, number one, I'd ask a couple questions. I'd like to know like what they're doing, right? Because you can be doing some of the things that I'm saying, but it's like, how are you doing it? Sometimes it's not the what, it's the how, right? Who's on your team? That's a very important question.
Yeah.
And maximizing that, right? Like if you're working with a team that isn't producing, hold them accountable. Like you're paying them to do a job.
Sure.
And there's many agencies out there that do this kind of work. So don't feel like, oh, I'm putting all my hard-earned money into this and I'm not seeing a return. That's unacceptable to me. Find somebody that will get the job done for you and hold them accountable. Social media marketing has been really good to me and it's grown my practice to where it's at now. So I'm very grateful to that.
Yeah.
And that if you're not doing that, please, like, it's going to change your practice. It's worth every penny that you put into it, in my opinion.
That's good. So. That's good advice. That's good advice. Adhere to his advice. It's good advice. All right. So being in the field that I'm in,
Mm-hmm.
I think building an online presence in general is key. I mean, not just for chiropractic, right? For any small business these days, everything starts online. Everything is Google. You want something, Google it, right? And that's been the case for years.
Right.
It's old news now. But that's what I want to shift to a little bit,
Sure.
kind of building your online presence and
Mm-hmm.
some questions around that. So how important do you think it is for chiropractors to have a strong online presence? Not just the social media aspect, not just the marketing as far as, doing meta ads, which I think is a huge piece. Not just that, not just, just in general, why is it important for them to have a strong online presence from a chiropractor's perspective?
I think that it shows that you're human. I think it shows that you're personable, which is really important. Like nobody wants to go to the chiropractor that's a robot. Like people want to resonate with you and have that connection. So making yourself seem very personable, somebody that is just, your regular guy that's just doing everything he can to help the patients that walk through the door. That's has integrity, that's authentic, that's super important. So like
Yeah.
having a good bio that like talks a little bit about you and your
Yeah.
kids and like those things are really important as well as far as like a website and having like meet the team, a bio,
Sure.
what you do,
Sure.
like all those things need to look sharp too. Like it's
Yeah.
not just like about throwing something on a quick website. Like make the website look good, make it look like it's professionally done.
Yeah.
Because nowadays it's like how easy is it to make a website? Like
Yeah.
put some effort into that
Yeah.
because everybody's going to go through that. If they're Googling you and they see you, they're going to click on your website. So that's a point of contact. So you want to make sure all your points of contact are looking the way they need to, and they're drawing people in to your office.
What's one thing of everything you just said that you would advise chiropractors that are just starting out? What's one thing that you would advise them to focus on in the beginning?
At the beginning, I would say start small and scale from there. Don't try to like go get yourself into all this debt and acquire all these things because it's going to put a big burden on you.
Sure.
And that's the quickest way to get to burnout. Start small, focus on quality of care. Focus on becoming the best chiropractor in your community. Because if you take care of those people are going to send more people to you. And you're going to see that you're going to be able to scale that practice in a short period of time if you take care of your people. At the end of the day, it's all about the patients that are on your table. Every single visit needs to be high level,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you're going to find yourself very successful very quickly.
I like it. That's good. That's good. Just for the record, I feel that
Yeah.
coming into your office. I really do. From the minute I walk in, the way I'm greeted, the way my kids are greeted. My kids love going to your office. The adjustment itself, you could tell you're not rushing through like done,
Right.
move on. It's not a assembly line, and I love that. I think you definitely you do that in the right way, in a strong way. I love it.
And I think you brought up a good point too, that it's like attention to detail, i.e. what do your staff look like in the front? How are they greeting your patients? How do they answer the phones?
Yep.
All those things are instrumental to that.
Yeah.
So,
One of the things actually I teach in the book is about, when you're branding yourself is it literally starts from the door.
Right.
I walk into your office, for example, and I actually talked about that or spoke about that a little bit in my my video training. I walk in and there's a coffee bar. There's some tea if I want. There's drinks. There's protein bars, and then you have your products laid out, right? Some merchandise and whatnot, and then the front desk is right there. And again, as I walk in, and what I love too is how you made it easy as far as checking in. Even those little details, like I can check in with a text and say I'm here. I can check in by putting my phone number in. I love it. It's all really all the little details matter.
We try to hit the five senses, right? Like as soon as you walk in, like it should smell good, it should look good.
Yeah.
Like everything. We try to just hit all those five senses.
I love it.
You know, because that's what resonates with people, and that makes an impression at the end of the day. So
Yeah,
it's important.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so I think this is probably one of the most important in any field, but especially when it comes to health. Testimonials, reviews, like what role do those play specifically in chiropractic in attracting new patients to your practice?
That's huge.
Yeah.
Like, I know I mentioned like word of mouth and referrals. That's like the best way to get that, right? Because if you can get a patient that already loves you, and by the way, this is easy because they already love you. They're telling you every time they come in, I'm feeling great. You know, I'm able to do this. I'm able to do that. All you have to say is, hey, Bob, would you mind just putting that in a Google review for me? What you just said, would you mind just doing that for me? That'd be huge. That would help us a lot. Just like that. And patients will have no issues doing it. But I think oftentimes as chiropractors and as business owners, we get so wrapped up on the day-to-day that we're just like trying to go, go, go. We need to slow down sometimes, be intentional, and focus on those small little things that could, you know, really help you with patient acquisition in a big way. So reviews, doing raffles, I've done that a couple of times in the office where like, you know, we raffle off a massage and some supplements and just like little things like that. Like, you know, if you leave a review, you get 5 tickets for the raffle. Like coming up with fun ideas and getting creative so that people are more engaged and are wanting to leave reviews for you.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's important, honestly. I think those, even like if you can do case studies and the reviews are great. I think case studies are also big too, where you talk about where somebody was and where they are today, and actually how long it took to get there.
Right.
Because you're not going to walk into a chiropractor's office and then fixed, done, you're out.
Yeah.
It's a long process. It is I think anything that happens quickly doesn't last long.
Right.
Weight loss. I've struggled with that all like my adult life. Every time I lost weight quickly, I gained it right back and then some. But then actually, FYI, chiropractic care specifically is when my real weight loss journey started. Actually, I was probably over 300 pounds.
Wow.
Maybe 325 pounds. I stopped weighing myself. That's how big I was. Wow. I stopped going to the doc. I don't know how much I weighed. I probably lost over 100 pounds at this point.
Wow. Congratulations.
I was a big boy. I was a big boy.
Yeah.
Wow. But, you know, and what opened my eyes was the conversations that I had with my chiropractors. And, you know, from intermittent fasting to exercising to eating the right things. Now, I don't do it right all the time, but because I slowly kind of dipped my toe into it and then my foot and so on, I think that's what lasts. And that's how I look at chiropractic care really, is it's not an overnight thing. I was actually talking to my dad the other day and I'm like, Dad, you really need to stick to this. It's going to help you. He's like, no, it's not going to help, you know, old school mentality, which is fine, you know, every to each his own. But it's a longer process. My mom is on the right track. She wants to continue down that track. So yeah, it's a longer venture, but there is benefit to it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So in your opinion, what is the most effective ways for chiropractors to build trust with potential patients online? So we talked about you know, referrals, because those people are going to come in, you know, knowing you do a good job because their buddy, their friend, their cousin, their aunt, whoever said, hey, Dr. Juan knows what he's doing. They're going to come in trusting you. But for somebody that's, you know, doesn't know you from, you know, Adam, and they come in your door, they've seen your stuff online. What is the most effective way for you to build that trust ahead of time?
Well, one of the things that I'd like to also touch on that I just thought about as it relates to case studies, in my office, I have patient of the month. So that when that new patient is going through and the staff is doing a tour of the office, they highlight that. They say, this is Bob, this is the patient of the month for November. You know, he came in like this. Now he's like this. These are his x-rays when he first came in. Look how much change we've gotten.
I love that.
And then there's like pictures of him and his family and the things that he's now able to do that he wasn't able to do back then. And we have the same thing for kids too, right? Like that's a great point you brought up. Those case studies are huge. And of course we post that on our social media as well, and we try to do that on a monthly basis. But going back to that question, in my office in particular, it's all about the team. Like everybody has to be spot on, because in my office, the CAs or the chiropractic assistants do a lot of the legwork when it comes to new patients, right? Like they're the ones checking them in. They're the ones that are doing the first initial intake paperwork. They're the ones going through like the medical history, asking them about their issues, right? They're doing all of those things, taking x-rays. So for us is making sure we have an impactful first impression and that we go above and beyond with our service, right? Make sure that they feel like they're at home is a big thing. And then, I come in at the end and I introduce myself. I go give them a little bit of like context as to like what's going to happen within the next visit and how we're going to be able to help them, how our office is different than perhaps a previous experience they had with a chiropractor. Or if they've never been to a chiropractor, I let them know, hey, I'm glad that you picked us and I'm glad that this is your first experience with us because we're going to educate you really well before we even start doing anything. Yeah. And so like all those, bases are really important. Make sure that everything in that first visit is 10 out of 10 or above 10 out of 10. Because if you do that, not only is that going to ensure that the patient comes back for their follow-up to review x-rays, but that's going to start the process of making that new patient a patient that's going to stay in your practice and get chiropractic care. So that's really important.
That's good. So going off script a little bit here, you work with several companies, I assume at least.
Yeah.
Numbers. Okay. Marketing companies, that is. And what would you say is the most important? Because so I have a philosophy. If your heart's not in it, you're not going to win it. And what I mean is it's like anybody can like kind of build a company, build a business, build a chiropractic practice, build whatever, manufacturing facility. I don't care what it is. If you don't have a passion for it, I feel like, why are you even doing it? Right. And I mean, that's why I got into chiropractic marketing, because it's literally a passion of mine. Everyone I speak to, if I can somehow work into the conversation that you need to go get chiropractic care, I do. That's what's kind of sparking all of this and why I'm building this agency, but I have a passion for it. But I've also talked to people that just do it to do it because they know how to do SEO, because they can build and optimize. That's great. That's wonderful. But so you've worked with several companies. For you, what stands out from the ones that you work with? Let's start with what stands out in a, unfortunately, negative way when you work with these companies.
So for me, and I know we've kind of touched on this before, it's attention to detail. I look at that a lot because if I'm working with an agency and they're in charge of creating my ads and making them look nice and all those things, and I see typos on the ads or that's not exactly the offer that we had agreed on. Like those small little things to me is a red flag, and that means that they're not very passionate about it. That means that they aren't putting the level of attention that they should be putting into my ads. And usually I tend to see that more with the agencies that see a higher volume or do different fields and don't typically concentrate on one particular field of whatever that may be, because you can use this in whichever space you want. So that would probably be the first thing that stands out to me when I'm like, I'm not so sure if I want to proceed or continue with this company.
Okay. What is a positive thing that you can kind of pull out of your experiences with these companies?
For me, it's the communication, how accessible they are. The people that do a great job of tracking all the stats, that are professional that have the attention to detail, that I know my ads look great, I don't have to worry about it, and then that I can hold accountable. Like I know I can reach out to them, and at a given notice, just be like, hey, what are our numbers right now, and what are we spending on this? What are we spending on that? And they know everything right away. That's what I like. Somebody that's reliable. That's huge for me. So yeah, just being able to always hold the people that are working with you accountable for their work, and because that's so important. Like we spoke about patient acquisition and how that plays such a vital role in growing a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the things that I look for in a good agency.
Okay, that's good. So another kind of off-script question here. I've been in this industry for a long time, and the things I've noticed in all these different niches is people like to create something, right? They build a box,
Sure.
and they just want to throw everyone in that same box. With your experience with these companies, do you feel like you've moved on because they were trying to fit a square peg round hole? Like what also deterred you from doing business with these companies? Because in my opinion, I don't think it's a one size fits all.
Right.
Now you might have, my product specifically is a one size fits all in the sense that you need this structure, this structure, this structure, and this structure, right? But within those products, within the sub tasks specifically, it needs to be customized,
Right.
not just from, for chiropractic, but from chiropractor to chiropractor. Right. Because Dr. Juan might not sound like Dr. Smith, right? And so on. So what did that play a role in you kind of moving on because you felt like they're just checking boxes?
Right. What you just said kind of resonates with me with like the kind of care I provide and how I treat my patients in my business, right? I'm looking for somebody that isn't going to treat me like I'm just a number, right? That yes, you have to have a formula to what you do. There's systems, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't cater or personalize certain things to a particular practice, right? But it's the ones that treat everybody the same, very cookie cutter. That's where like you want to pull out of that.
Yeah.
So for me, as long as I'm being heard, as long as I see that they're taking care of me, and everything that I ask of them is being done, and I can tell that they are tailoring the job to the needs of my practice and what we are trying to offer, that's what I look for. Because if I start seeing like, oh no, like they treat everybody the same, they just do the same formula for everybody, they just throw your ads real quick, and they flip things around pretty quickly, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
Because then you're not going to stand out.
Yeah.
The whole point of this is you want to stand out from all the other 10 chiropractors that are using social media ads and marketing, right? So it's huge for me.
Yeah, I think that piece is big too when it comes to kind of that genuine aspect of that particular chiropractor. You can tell when somebody's just on there to be on there, and when somebody actually really believes in what they do.
For example, I had a company now that just comes to mind that they're like, no, we'll only do like our own videos with paid actors, and they've done this, and they know what they're doing. But like to me, that doesn't resonate. I'm like, so you're gonna have an actor be the face of my practice?
Right.
How does that make any sense? So now people are gonna come in expecting that
to
doctor
see that person,
and instead they get me. So it's like they're gonna be a little thrown off by that.
Yeah.
It's all about being genuine, authentic,
Yeah.
Being personable, and that's what you get by doing your own ads. I'm not the best on camera, and like for me, it's not the most comfortable to do. Right.
Same. Yeah.
But like that's
you,
and it's gonna like that's what people are gonna see, and if you can set up that expectation from the very beginning, even just from them seeing you on Facebook or whatever, it's gonna make all the difference when they come into your office.
Yeah.
So like again, that goes back to just being working with a company that's very personalized and like really
Yeah.
intentional about what they're trying to do with your advertising.
Yeah. Not even knowing what that company is that presented that as a product to you.
Yeah.
What happens there is it's not just the videos, right?
Yeah.
What they do is they create something,
Right.
and then all they do is modify it from one chiropractic practice to another. They just change the name because for them it's just plug and play.
Sure.
Which, you know, it may produce results, but it doesn't produce results in the sense that they're building that brand, because you can find that video, you know, in another state, another county, whatever, for that. It's literally the same person speaking on behalf of another practice. So yeah, like you said, I mean, yeah, the whole thing about being genuine and getting on camera so that your prospective patients see you, I think that's big. Even me, like, I hate being on camera. I literally hate it. I don't mind being in front of people. I love the social aspect. I just don't know what to do with this thing. It's just me. But I do that, right? I create short form videos. I create content to help the community I'm trying to reach and so on. Because of it creates this sense of almost like thought leadership, if you think about it, right? The more you put yourself out there regarding whatever topic it is, it puts you in a place of authority, right? And people start to trust you before they even meet you, right? And that's key. And for me, it's tough also. Here's another thing. I don't know if you struggle with this and why you're not great with cameras. I feel like the person watching, I think about what they're thinking. Right. And I'm like, okay, does this person know that I'm actually being genuine? Like, are they actually believing what I'm saying? Because I'm not trying to sell them anything. Literally, I just want to teach you. Right. That's really my heart. That's honestly what I want to do, is just teach. I want to inform. And not just chiropractors, but even the patients. Like, I'm hoping to get this out to people that don't know that they even need chiropractic to see it, so that they can see the benefit. But that's my goal, and that's really my passion. That's, you know, and I always kind of hope that when I'm recording something and I'm putting it out there, that they can see that. I just sometimes feel like it feels scripted, even though it isn't, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know, is that something you struggle with? Or?
Yeah, for sure. It's like, what are they thinking? What's their perspective? And like, I'm so busy thinking of that I get, you know, I can't get my message across clearly.
Yeah.
Even like when I'm educating patients face to face sometimes, and I'm like, I have a large group, like a workshop or something. Yeah. Like, I'm like, oh, like, are they paying attention? Like, what's going through their mind? And I'm like preoccupied with that. Yeah. But you know, the more you do it, the easier you get. So if you feel that way right now, like, don't worry, just practice. Practice is everything. Yep. The more, if you want to get better at public speaking, what do you need to do? You need to go do some public speaking.
Exactly.
The more engagements you do, you start to feel more comfortable the more you do it. And I feel like, you know, initially that was difficult for me, but now I can do it no problem. Yeah. It's, you know, it's still a little uncomfortable for me. I'm not going to say I'm out up there and I'm like, but yeah, it gets easier. It does get easier.
It does. The mirror works, by the way. Yeah. It's the silliest thing I've ever done. Yeah. And I feel like an idiot doing it, honestly. But it works. Get in front of the mirror, you practice, you grab your phone, you practice, you talk to your phone like the person's sitting right there. Right. And you practice, and then you watch yourself, you're like, wow, I look dumb. I need to be more natural. And that's the thing, like, the more relaxed you are, the more genuine you look and so on. So
I like to think about, like, the situations where I've been the listener or I've been the spectator. Yeah. And when I think about that, I'm like, oh, I never pay attention to those things. Like, these people aren't like actually caring like what my hair looks like or what the sound of my voice is like.
I have that problem with my hair too.
Like, nobody cares. Like, nobody's thinking about that. You know, we get so much in our head, so sometimes it's good to like remind yourself, like, think about when you're in that seat. Yeah. Do you actually care all that much? No. Yeah. You don't. And you don't like scrutinize that once you leave. Like, you forget about it. So just go out there, be yourself, teach them what they need to learn, and the most important thing, like you said, is just be yourself, be relaxed. Like, you're just talking.
Yeah. One other thing I'd like to point out here, so, and I think this is true for chiropractors as well, correct me if I'm wrong, right? A lot of the times you actually sometimes you need to talk about your actual service, right?
Right.
Sometimes you need to talk about what you charge.
Mm-hmm.
Depends if you have a special happening and whatnot. It
Mm-hmm.
might feel salesy. Like for me, I struggle with, so I have this thing, 90 patients in 90 days. That's my thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? I tell chiropractors, I'll get you 90 new patients in 90 days or you don't pay.
Mm-hmm.
That's my approach to it. That's how much I believe in my product.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking about that and I'm looking at the camera, I'm like 90 patients in 90 days. I'm like, I don't want to sell you something that you don't want. I don't want to feel like I'm a sales guy. I'm wondering, like, even in chiropractic, like, do you, when you have to present, hey, we have a special, $59 special, okay? You're gonna get adjusted, you're gonna get a massage, you're gonna get a blah blah blah, you're gonna get all these things. How do you kind of work through that so that, because at the end of the day, Dr. Juan, I think you and I are very similar in this, that we genuinely want to help people.
Mm-hmm.
That's really our goal.
Sure.
So how do you get over that hurdle of talking about what you offer, right? Or do you not talk about what you offer? Like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like it's all about the value, and like, yes, like sometimes to get people to come see you, like people love a good offer or special, right? So to me, it's a numbers game, right? Like we want to get as much attention, get as many people to walk through his doors as possible, because even if that patient can't afford care for whatever reason, like that person is going to have their first adjustment. They're going to learn what chiropractic is, and who knows, maybe later on they're in a better position and they're going to come see you, or they're going to go see they're going to see chiropractic care, period.
Yeah.
Like that's all I care about.
Yeah,
I want patients to get better, really, learn the benefits of chiropractic and how it can change their life. I share that same passion. Like for me, it's like all about truly helping people, which is why I became a chiropractor and not a medical doctor.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want to be able to get to the root cause, show people that there is a different way, right? Because we're so like honed in on like only this is the only way.
Yeah.
But it's not true. There's so many other things, like, but we don't like to hear that, right? We like to hear, oh, it's out of my hands. There's nothing I can do. What can you do for me? Right? That feels more natural to us.
Yeah.
But the minute somebody says, oh no, you don't understand. This can be changed, but you're gonna have to put some work in. You're gonna have to do some things that you might not feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
So it's that. But I think at the end of the day, if you provide good quality service and patients see that you're genuine and authentic and you're really there just to help them, it doesn't matter what you charge. It's all about value. It's all about value. That's it.
Yeah. Value add. I love it. Well, I really, really, really enjoyed our time together. I appreciate you taking the time out to chat with me and teach me, and I love that. Love learning new things. So I appreciate your time, and maybe we'll do this again.
Absolutely.
In the future. So
I'd love to come back.
Thank you, sir.
You may have.
And this marks a milestone in cyber adjustment. Dr. Juan, first live podcast.
Yes,
a success, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yes,
really.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.